video is sponsored by me being an indecisive disaster. Hello my lovely friend, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at how my reading year has gone so far. Like any good narrative, this video comes to you in 3 parts. The first part is going to be my reading and channel goals for the year. I'm going to take a look at what they were, how I'm doing, all of that stuff. If you are interested in like the original video, it's 6 months old. I will have it linked down below. In the second part, we will be indulging in a little bit of freaking out with the mid-year freakout tag. Then in the third part, I will be bringing things back down again with the mid-year calm down tag by Leandra over at Leandra the TBR0. I will have all of the original creators / tags linked down below in my description box, as well as timestamps in case you want to skip over any of it. In other words, if you're not a big fan of stats, feel free to skip them. I just want to start the stats section out by reminding everyone that I am an optimist. And by optimist, I mean delusion. I still have the rest of this month, August, September, October, and November, before I need to actually sit down and confront that. My yearly goal for 2025 is to read 100 books in a year. We are doing not well because I've read 23 books this year so far. I think I might be missing a couple in there because I just found one today that I was like, wait, I know I read that this year. Why isn't it in my stats? So I need to go through and take a look at the stats. But we are not nearly where we need to be at this point of the year, but that's okay. That's what comic books and manga exist for. That's what novellas are for. Right now would be a great time to reread the Murderbot series. The TV show just came out. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe that is what I should do. Another one of my reading goals was to read 6 nonfiction books from my shelves specifically. I have started several. I have not finished any of them. What I am finding, what I am seeing this year is that I'm really good at starting books. Like, I've probably started enough books this year to be on track, but the finishing them is being a little hard. I have read nonfiction. I'm going to talk about one of them. Like, it was such a good nonfiction book, I went out and bought it right away. It just was not a book that was on my shelf prior to 2025, and the goal was to read books that have been on my shelf before this year. I need to actually buckle down and sit down and read some of those books. I will say there is some good news because I am doing better on my goal for the number of series that I want to finish or make progress on. I wanted to finish or make progress on 6 series. We're currently sitting at 4 series. And any progress counts as progress, okay? It's even if I move 1 book ahead. Starting to think that maybe I should have made that goal a little bit higher if I was going to count things that way, but you know what? We're going to take a win is a win. We're gonna take it. I also want to read 25 books from my physical TBR, and that is books that were purchased prior to this year. So anything that was in my physical TBR check-in, those are the books that count. I have read a grand total of 3 of the books that were on my physical TBR this year. No, wait! I have read 4 books that were on my physical TBR this year. I forgot one of the books that's missing is a book that's been on my physical TBR since before I had a book to— oh, I'm so happy. This is fantastic. This is good news. Again, same old broken song. I'm in the middle of a couple of books that have been on my physical TBR for a while. I just haven't read them. And then the final reading goal I have for 2025 is to read 20 indie fantasy books. And I'm just gonna give you a pause. Drum roll, please. Go ahead, get that drum roll going. I have read a grand total of 0. Do I have several that I have started? Yes, I do. Have I finished them yet? No. The minute that I get my shit together and I'm able to actually like sit down and focus on these books and read through all of them, oh my god, it's gonna be so satisfying. It's going to be amazing. All of my stats are gonna go way, way up. And as a stats girly, as a girly that likes to check things off, I'm gonna be so happy with life when this happens. It's just, not happening at the moment. I know, I sound really frustrated and annoyed with myself, and you guys are gonna be like, Margaret, it's okay, you can take, it's okay, you don't have to be. I get it, I'm telling myself that all of the time. We're working on it. However, it is a little bit disheartening, and we're gonna also sit down and feel that moment as well. I can give myself grace and space. I can also be a little frustrated that my reading year is not going the way that I would prefer it to go, and that's okay. Both of those are okay, and we're gonna, life is a balancing act. As far as channel goals have gone, you might have noticed that we are in a little bit of a creative slump. I haven't been doing as many videos as I have in years past. I'm used to having a little bit of a slump around April, May, and then things ramping back up towards the end of the year. Again, we're giving ourselves grace and we're giving ourselves space, and we don't, like, the thing that I don't want to have happen is burnout, and I am starting to feel a little bit burnt out. So again, I'm giving myself some space to feel the way that I want to feel and not push myself too hard. That said, I do want to get back into the swing of things, and I'm starting to feel some of the creative juices start to flow again. This is the perfect time to have gone through, looked at these goals, and refocused. I am going to approach my channel goals specifically as though I completed all of them, any that needed to be done in the first half of the year. I am only holding myself to the final 6 months of this year. For example, one of my goals was I wanted to do one project video a month. I have so many project videos just like rattling around up here and written down in notebooks and all of that stuff. Writing, choose one specific notebook, by the way. Otherwise, you keep finding random ideas and you're like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. That was a year ago. So the goal was to do one project video per month for the entire year. So far, I have done one of those project videos. 2 if we count the annotate with me video. I kind of want to do that, but we're not gonna, again, we're not worrying about the first half of the year. We're just gonna pretend like the first half of the year doesn't exist. The goal moving forward for August, September, October, November, and December is to make sure that I have a project video for each of those months. The good news is I have a couple that are already fully filmed. It's just a matter of me sitting down and editing them. You guys might have a lot of vlogs hitting you very soon. I hope you're in the mood for them. The other thing that I want to get working on and launch by the end of the year is a Patreon. Even more now than when I made the original goals video, there are some concerns I have for the viability of my current career and whether or not it will be here for an extended amount of time. And so I am trying to find ways to make sure that the bills are getting paid and growing different income streams. So that is going to be one of the things that I want to work on. I have a time period in my head for when I would like to have it launched by, but I am still thinking through a couple of things, including I saw, I believe it was Elliot Brooks, talking about her Patreon. I am considering whether or not I want to emulate what she does with hers, or if I want to do what I have seen everyone else that I personally know do with theirs. I'm still kind of going back and forth between that, and I want to have made a specific decision. Plus, I also need to design some graphics, and I'm just bad at sitting down to do that stuff. The other goal that channel goal that I have is to have more of a bookish presence on TikTok. I have started working on that. I'm not getting massive views, but I am having fun with it. I am talking about stuff. TikTok is very, very low pressure, and I like that about it. I can just sit down and yap about a book, and I don't have to do this whole setup. I don't have to make it a part of a vlog. I can just sit down and like talk about things on my TikTok. So if you're interested, I will have it linked down below. If you want to see like more uncut, raw stuff that happens more often than my vlogs happen, go ahead and check out my TikTok. I also talk about other things on there like D&D. I talk about cultural stuff. I talk about how not to be weird to strangers on the internet. That is a constant thing that is coming up because I have things to say about that. The other thing that I wanted to work on was editing consistently. Again, we are resetting the timer, and it starts once this video is recorded. Once this video is finished, I hit the final record on this. That is when we start working on this goal again and try and sit down and like consistently edit every day or every couple of days. Make sure that I'm sitting down and not just letting stuff build up on my memory cards. Also, reading daily was one that I was trying to work on. We did really good until about April. April I kind of hit a slump. I did really, really good until April. I am actually kind of happy with how January through April went. I feel like, yeah, I proved to myself that I can do that. I just need to sit down and start doing it yet again. Going into the mid-year freakout tag, first off, they ask, what is the best book that you have read so far this year? This one was a hard one. I have some answers that are really biased, but I had to, I really did sit down and go, okay, but what is the best written book that I have read this year? And I have to say that is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. This one, I was 30-something pages in, and I knew I wanted to own a copy of it because I knew it was going to be that good. This is not my first time reading Nnedi Okorafor's work. I have really enjoyed her work in the past, but this was the one that this one grabbed me in a way that the previous books have not. The story was structured is just so clever and so interesting, and there is a twist at the very, very end that I'm like, oh, of course. Oh, it's so beautifully done. We have the world of this novel with our main character Zelu, who is kind of like the family disappointment because she is not a doctor or a lawyer, she is a writer. Her parents are not happy with that. They don't quite understand it. We catch her at a career low. She's just been laid off from her job. She has just had her agent drop her because her book that she's been working on for 10 years isn't selling, and she sits down just to write something one night, and she creates what ends up being this massive bestseller about robots at the end of the world when humans are gone. What happens with that? We're switching back and forth between two stories. We have Zelu's story where she is dealing with the politics of moving back into her parents' house. She's dealing with the intersectionality of race, gender, and her disability because she is a wheelchair user. She's dealing with developments in her personal and romantic life. She is dealing with the added scrutiny of her becoming a bestseller and some of the opportunities that come with that. And then we have our robot main character that is in the future dealing with kind of the dynamics between the androids and these kind of bodiless AI that are trying to wipe out everything that is not like them. They felt so prescient for the moment that we are currently in. Question number 2 is to talk about the best sequel that you have read this year. I am going to go with Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen. This is also a strong contender for best book of the year. For me, it is going to be my favorite book of this year. I know for a fact that nothing is coming out this year that could possibly dethrone it. Like there's not a single thing that I have not read yet that could possibly dethrone this book. I just do not see that happening. I love these characters too much. I love this world too much. It fulfilled a part of my soul. And for it to make it to the best book of my year, you need to fulfill a part of my soul. This is the 3rd book in the Little Thieves trilogy. It happens 2 years after book 2. We're not really following Vanya in the fallout from the last book. More we're following her, like we pick up where she is now with all of the growth that she has done in the last 2 years. And the fact that she has to then get brought back to work with Emmerich kind of makes her regress a little bit, but there are also like things that she's learned, and so their dynamic is much different, but it's also the same. And I really enjoyed watching these two characters that I have seen work together so well have to grapple with actually having something between them that they truly disagree on and don't know if they can get past. And that was really interesting to watch them kind of work through that and watch as the full story came out and how their reactions to those full stories kind of worked. I really enjoyed this. If you want some more of my thoughts, I do have a live show that I did with Leandra over at Leandra the TBR 0. We did a Little Thieves read along where we read all 3 of the books. We reread the first 2 and then we read this one together so that we would be able to like sit down and chat about it. Also, fun fact that I found out, this the main character of this started out as a D&D character. That's how Margaret Owen came up with this character and decided to transport her into a novel. I have a D&D character that is based off of a character in a novel I want to write, but I haven't done it the other way around yet. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but you need to read this year? I have a few. I couldn't just choose one, so I figured I would grab 3. First, we have The Unmapping by Denise S. Robbins. This is a dystopian. It is set in New York City, and the people of New York wake up and find that the buildings have rearranged themselves. Not only have they rearranged themselves in the night, they also keep rearranging themselves. That is a massive problem because you think about all of the water pipes and the electricity and the infrastructure and all of that is being wrecked. Our main characters are dealing with this from 2 different ends of the spectrum. We have someone who is dealing with all of the bureaucracy, and then we have someone who is boots on the ground trying to help people, trying to get them out of situations, trying to like fix situations as they occur, and they're also dealing with the rise of a cult. That doesn't sound familiar at all. I do have a finished copy of this as well. I just was too lazy to take it out of the stack that is behind me. But it's back there. It's back there, and it's very pretty. I also have a Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a Native American vampire novel. We are following a character that has found, well, we're actually not following her. We're following her great grandfather, who's a Lutheran pastor. Basically, we open with this woman documenting the fact that she has found a journal in the wall of a church, and it is the journal of her ancestor, her sometime great-grandfather, who went missing in 1912, and he is detailing a series of encounters that he has had with a Native American named Goodstab. Pretty sure that Goodstab is the vampire. I could be wrong. There could be a twist coming, but I feel like Stephen Graham Jones is really good at like giving you what you think you're getting right from the get-go and like sticking to what's in the synopsis, and then the twist is not what has to do with the synopsis. Does that make sense? And then finally I have Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the summer. This is a novel based off of Critical Role's 2nd campaign. We are following Guinevere and Oscar, and I just barely started this one, but Guinevere is in a caravan going to get married to someone. The caravan is attacked and she ends up getting rescued by this half-orc named Oscar. There is some stuff going on with Guinevere and like some magic that she has that I just am like, as someone who plays D&D, like I'm over here going, oh, I know what class she is. Now, what subclass is she? It's sounding like she's very sheltered. It's sounding like she is not the character on the front, by the way. These are Ford and Jester, the 2 characters from the campaign. This is the alternate cover that is supposed to like have been drawn by Jester, and I had to have this one on the front because like I I don't know these people. Question number 4 is to talk about some of your most anticipated reads for the second half of the year, and I have 3 that I want to highlight here. The first one is Witchlight by Susan Dennard. This is the 5th and final book in the Witchland series, and I have been waiting for this book, and I am hoping, I'm praying, I'm on my knees begging for Susan Dennard to feed me in this book, because she hooked me with a specific relationship in book 1, and then we have gotten crumbs. Like, they were really good crumbs in Blood Witch, but we have gotten crumbs. It's a world that kind of has elemental magic, but then you also have things like Blood Witches, you have things like Truth Witches, which is what one of our main characters, Safi, is. She is a Truth Witch, which means she can tell when someone is lying or not. We also have Isolde, who is her Thread sister and is a Thread Witch, which has a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not even going to go into because it's complicated and spoilers. I love these characters, I love this world, and I want to see if I am right about a couple of things, because I have some theories based on what I think has happened and what, like, the pieces that she's been putting down. So I have some theories about what is actually going on in this world and what, like, the ultimate endgame is going to be. I want to see if those are right. There's also The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold by Allie Carter. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. It's Allie Carter. If she writes it, I will read it. I don't even remember what it's about at this point. I do talk about it in my summer releases. Spies are involved, and it's Allie Carter. That's everything that I needed to know. And also, it is in the same world as The Blonde Identity. I really love The Blonde Identity. It was everything that really, like, made me fall in love with Allie Carter as a writer when I was reading her YA, and, like, she just kind of took it up for an adult audience, and I really appreciate that. And then the final one that is, like, on my radar is Cry, Voidbringer by Elaine Ho. I believe this one comes out in October. I have the date somewhere. It is in a list for the next video of anticipated releases, but this is set in a dystopian world, and we have someone who is, it sounds like we're going to have some bucking against the system. We have someone who has been subsumed into an imperial system, and they are part of that system, but then there is an encounter, a thing that they are asked to do, and it sounds like that's going to be a thing too far. I don't know if they've already been, like, rebelling in small ways, but it does sound like they are asked to perpetuate the harm that has been done to them onto a child and bring that child into that same system. And it sounds like that is too much for them, and they decide that they are not going to do that. And things start to change for them. I could be very wrong on some of those specifics, but it just sounds very good. It sounds like a very good kind of dystopian fantasy that we are working with. Question number 5 is your biggest disappointment so far this year, and I don't know that there's going to be a bigger disappointment for the rest of the year, but that is Manslaughter Park by Tears of Price. This is a good book if you don't like Mansfield Park. Like, if you don't like Fanny, you don't like Edmund, if you don't like the original novel, if you didn't go into it hoping to see some of the dynamics of the original novel, but maybe a little bit more modernized, you're gonna like this. I read this. I was here. Until we found out who the murderer was. And then I was done. I was unhappy. Listen, here, we're gonna summarize it in this. We could have had a throuple, but instead we chose murder. The continued misunderstanding of Mansfield Park and what Jane Austen was talking about and what she was trying to do and what is going on in that novel. Like, it's not even my favorite Jane Austen. It is probably my least favorite Jane Austen. But I still love it. You know what? I'm not even gonna stick it on the stack. I don't want that. That's all. You're never gonna see it again on my channel. You will probably see it again on my most disappointing books of the year. But anyways, question number 6 is, what is your most surprising read so far? And I'm gonna say Feeding the Machine: The Hidden Human Labor Powering AI by James Muldoon, Mark Graham, and Caleb Cant. At the beginning of this book, I was making fun of these 3 authors because these 3 men that are at Oxford University said that they came to this book with a diverse background, and I knew what they were saying, but that's not how I would have worded it. That said, these 3 knew their shit. The way that they are making links between certain aspects of AI to, like, the East India Trading Company, like that far back, talking about how we exploit human labor, talking about communication, talking about how human society has been built. They knew their shit. It was so good. Again, this is one that I picked it up. I started reading it. I was like, this should be interesting. I don't even remember how I heard of it, but I wanted to sit down and read it and like listen to it, especially considering the conversations that we've been having about generative AI lately. This does such a good job of laying out the human cost of AI as it currently exists. It does such a good job of laying out the environmental cost of AI, and it does take kind of a this is an advancement of technology sort of neutral approach, but oh man, do they sit down and hold these tech companies' feet to the fire in this book. It's like a slow roast, okay? The temperature's not that high, but they are making sure you get cooked. Question number 7 is, who's your new favorite author for 2025? It is Heather Fawcett. This is like the year of me reading, like starting a book, knowing I'm going to love it, and then just going out and buying all of the books. I definitely was... Actually, no, I was in the middle of book 2 because I finished this one and then I immediately checked book 2 out as an ebook from my library and read that. And I was like I was in the process of finishing that book when I went to the bookstore and got all 3. There are so many things about specifically this series that make this a Margaret series, but like, I am a sucker for a good book with annotations. If you have a snarky narrator who is giving me footnotes, kryptonite. I love it. That's why Ruin of Kings works so well for me. We're also dealing with like a fun, bookish protagonist and her not... That's a spoiler. I'm not going to say that. But the guy that she's definitely not interested in. This is pseudo-historical. We're following a woman who is creating an encyclopedia of the fairies of her world, and she's gone out to this really remote location to start to catalog like this subsect of fairies that haven't been cataloged before by anyone as far as she can find. And then her academic rival, he follows her and basically pisses her off for like half of the book. They have to work together because she's also pissed off the entire village. She's very autistic coded. I don't know if we actually say that she is in the series. We haven't so far, but she's very coded. Like, I do not know what social cues are. It's so funny how like the way the village works has to be explained to her after she's pissed everyone off, and they're like, oh, okay, we understand. You're just weird and awkward. That's okay. The next few are going to be just kind of rapid fire because I don't have in-depth answers for these, but question number 8 is, who is your newest fictional crush? As with last year, I don't have one. There's very few characters that like I'm like, I would wish you were real and I would like to date you kind of way. Question number 9 is your newest favorite character. I'm gonna say Cinnamon from That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemme. We're gonna talk more about that in a little bit, but she's fun. I liked how like, she gets thrown into the deep end. She gets thrown into something that is way over her head, and she doesn't, like, she adapts, she figures it out, and she gets shit done. And I'm just like, I enjoy that, I respect that, good for you. Question number 10 is a book that has made you cry. I can count on one hand the number of times a book has gotten me close to tears. I have never had a book make me cry. That just is the way that I am. I'm too aware that this is fictional, it's not real, these characters are not real. So I don't tend to cry over fictional stuff at all, ever. So is that a problem? I'm not sure. I think it's just the way I'm built. Question number 11 and 12 require me to dismantle some of that back there. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this. Forgot that these questions were here. All right, so a book that made me happy. We're gonna say A Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen. This is also the answer for question number 12, which is the most beautiful book you have bought this year. Look at sprayed edges, okay? Like, we have pretty shiny foily stuff. That's fun, not it. Sprayed edges, and then I love these. I love these books. They're amazing. They are fantastic. I just realized who that is on the back. Anyways, this is the prettiest book that I've bought this year. And question number 12 is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? I have some options. Number 1, I need to read not just by the end of the year, I need to read The Way of Kings by the end of the month. This needs to be done so I can continue on with the series because, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for things that I'm considering doing this year as projects, I need to get to the point where I can read Wind and Truth, and I don't want to have to read all 5 of these in November. So I need to be reading 1 a month. I did this back in April before I had the $3,000. Oh, you guys don't know about that. We're gonna take a slight detour from this thing, because hold on. This book cost me $3,000. That was gonna be in the vlog, but it is not, and there's no vlog, so it can't be in the vlog. So you guys get to hear the story. I went up to Decatur, Georgia to get this and meet Margaret Owen and get a signed copy, right? It was really fun to be able to walk up to the table and be like, yeah, how do I spell my name? The same way you spell yours. Fun. On the way home, I'm driving down South 75 in Georgia, minding my own business, when this giant, like, piece of what I thought was plastic flies across 3 lanes of traffic. Looked like it was gonna go behind me for a minute, but no, it swooped right in front of my car, goes right in front of my bumper, and I remember thinking, oh, it's going to hit me. All I could do was just brace and make sure that it didn't, like, I didn't swerve. And I did not. It went shoop under my bumper and lodged in my radiator. I was so worried that it was gonna like hit one of my tires, which I had just gotten replaced. I was so worried that it was gonna like damage the front of my, you cannot tell from the outside that my car was hit by what ended up being a giant piece of metal. It was like, you know, with the Mack trucks, like the big semi trailers, it was the metal piece of a bumper that had flown off, I believe, the back of a junk truck. And so I end up stranded right outside of Tipton, Georgia, in the heat. I mean, it was hot, and I was almost out of water. That was fun. I'm stranded there for like an hour while I wait for the tow. They get me to a mechanic. I pay $1,000 just to get it to the point, like, to replace the radiator. What they told me when, like, I came in, they're like, you know that your condenser is busted, your AC is not gonna be working. You are going to have no AC the rest of the way to Florida. And I was like, that is fine. I'm fine with that. I just need to get this home and get it to my mechanic. And then my mechanic was another $1,700. So altogether, this book cost me $2,700 to go get. The most expensive book in my collection. Yes, this is going with me if I have to evacuate for a hurricane. Sorry, I know that was a tangent, but I need to read this. I also need to read Miss Percy's Definitive Guide to the Restoration of Dragons by Quimby Olson. This is the final book in the Miss Percy series. It is a Regency romantasy series, I guess you could say, with dragons. It's very, I don't know if I would call it cozy, but it is cozy adjacent at the very least. Like, there aren't a lot of high stakes, especially in the first book. We're following Mildred Percy in the first book. She is a spinster who receives an inheritance from her uncle. Her sister, who she lives with and is taking care of her sister's children, expects it to have like some money involved, but it's not. It's like a weird, odd collection, and then this giant rock that turns out to be a dragon's egg. As it turns out, when you have a fire-breathing lizard hatch from an egg in an English vicarage, it causes issues, and so she kind of ends up going on some adventures to find out where this dragon came from. What do I do with it? And then the final one is Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the 3rd book in the Southern Reach trilogy. It starts with Annihilation. It is a series of books that are weird. They're weird, and I don't know why it works for me, but it is such an interesting thing that's going on. We've had no answers so far. We're in the 3rd book. There's been no answers so far. But the way that he keeps stringing us along and building the mystery of this kind of, not autonomous zone, that's the wrong word, but it's like a zone that cropped up, it basically wiped out everything. It's like this wild zone where everything kind of returned to nature, but weirder, and it's slowly growing, and people have been trying to study it and figure out what's going on and figure out, like, what do we do about this and all of that stuff, because it affects humans in weird ways. The first book is very anticlimactic. We don't get it, like, it doesn't really end, and the second book is kind of anticlimactic, and it doesn't really end, and every time we're, like, working with a new point of view, so we're working with another point of view in this book, and it's like, I just need answers. I feel like Jeff Vandermeer will give them to me. As we've gone, we have discovered enough pieces of the puzzle that I feel like we'll get the answers. We just haven't gotten them yet, and I need them. All right, now that we've freaked out, it is time to calm down. Let's sit back and reflect on our year. I'm going to try and do this calm. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me, because while I am calm about a lot of things, you might not believe this, but I'm actually kind of like a chill person in my day-to-day life. Like, probably 70% of the time, 80% of the time, I am very chill. But when I'm talking about books, there's not a lot of chill. So we're gonna try and be chill. You guys can let me know, based on what you just saw, if I succeeded. The Mid-Year Calm Down tag is done by Leandra over at Leandra the TBR0. I will have her original video, or no, this year's video, linked down below in the description box. Now, so the first prompt that Leandra has for us is thankfulness. What has 2025 given me thus far? And I will be honest, my first reaction to this was depression. My fatalistic sense of humor aside, I have actually had some very nice things that I am thankful for. One, we're in the middle of the mid-year reading scramble. I am always thankful for this. I'm always thankful for the people that come in and want to have fun with me and enjoy this weird little idea. I especially love the people that are like embracing the summer reading challenge bit of it. And I'm also very thankful that I set it up for like automatic success for me. Another like highlight of my year was the little Fabelin mini weekend that I did this year, the shopping trip. I had so much fun with that, coming up with the different prompts for everybody, watching everyone get really into it and like be like, okay, well, we need to read books. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I love being able to kind of share some of my creative side with you in the way that I get to with Fabelin. I feel like the part of me that's a storyteller, the part of me that loves to create fantasy worlds, kind of is is not seen as often anymore on my channel, but Phelan is a really nice outlet for it, and I have a lot of fun with that. I've also been really blessed this year to make some new friends through Book Talk and make some new friends through BookNet Fest. BookNet Fest, as always, is a highlight of my year. It is the time of year that I get to see people in person that I don't usually get to see. I got to meet Rainey in person for the first time. I got to hang out with Brianna for the first time in the longest time. I got to hang out with a couple of my new friends from Book Talk, Punky Broomster and Andrew over at Andrew Annotates. I'll have all of these people linked down below so you can check out. They all have YouTube channels and they also have TikTok. Check out their YouTube, as well as if you're on TikTok, go check them out on TikTok. But I know that people are trying to diversify because of all the weird stuff going on with TikTok. And I met and made a bunch of new friends there. It was really great. I still need to go through all of because one of the nice things that they did this year at BookNet Fest is they put up poster boards of hey, if you're a Florida person, here. If you like fantasy books, here. And I still need to go through and follow all of the people that I found on those poster boards. It's one of those things that I know it's going to be a task, so I just need to be in the headspace for a task. Another highlight of my year that's not necessarily bookish, but something that 2025 has given me, is that it has given me the chance to play Dungeons & Dragons with more people. I've recently made some new friends. We're going to be starting some new campaigns. The second prompt is relaxation. Was the most relaxing book that you have read this year? For me, I'm going to say Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is an interesting one because if you've seen some of my shorts, I was not particularly impressed with the first Adrian Tchaikovsky that I read, which was Children of Time. You might have seen the video where I talked about it. I will link that down below. So we're following Charles, who is a robot valet that is unemployed because he killed his master. He ends up being sent for diagnosis and potential reassignment or refurbishment, but when he gets to where he's supposed to be being diagnosed, he finds that there's been a breakdown in process because humans are dying out. There are not nearly enough humans left to run the society. Basically, they built this society where robots are doing most things, but they still need a human to approve things, and there aren't any humans that can. This sets him off on this entire journey where he's just I don't know why I killed my master. I want to serve. I want to be in service to a human. I want a task list. I want a purpose. Some people might find this stressful, but it is so just mellow and contemplative. It's a lot of deep inner thought. This is not there is external plot, but I feel like it is an equal mix of external plot and internal. It felt so real. It felt so human. The way that things were working, the twist at the end, my God. I really ended up enjoying it, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this. I ended up giving it 4 stars when I gave the last book I read by this author 2 stars. 4 is Nourishment, a book that energized me. I'll give you 3 guesses as to what book I'm going to mention. I'm not even going to go back and get it out of the stack because I'm lazy. It's Holy Terrors. I freaking love that book. It is my favorite book of the year. It will continue to be my favorite book of the year because there's not another Percy Jackson novel coming out this year. If there was another Percy Jackson novel coming out this year, it might have some competition, but it doesn't. Number 5 is Familiarity, and that is an author that I have returned to. That author for me is going to be J.R.R. Tolkien. Specifically, right now I am reading The Hobbit. I am 154 pages in. I'm pleasantly surprised with this reread. I didn't know if I was gonna, we'll see. We'll see if I love Lord of the Rings as much as I loved it previously, but I feel at least with The Hobbit, it's still holding up to my memories of it and my expectations. There are things in here that I was oh yeah, I forgot that happened. There are a couple of things where I was huh, they didn't make that up for the movie. I still hold that the Hobbit movie should have been a duology, not a trilogy, but that is neither here nor there because this is a book channel. And number 6 is Healthy Risk, an outside of my comfort zone read or new to me author. And again, I'm going to bring up That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. This was a little bit of an out of my comfort zone read because sometimes with romance, especially when it's a new romance author, it's a little bit more of a, hoping that I end up liking their specific style of romance and specifically with books where you have a lot of smut, their specific style of smut. Quite often in a romance book, if something doesn't work for me, it's going to be that. I really enjoyed this. We're following Cinnamon in this, and she, normal Cinnamon, everyday Cinnamon, does not want adventure. She wants to live a peaceful life on her spice farm with her parents. Drunk Cinnamon decides that she is going to go and save a demon from his curse. He is under the control of this evil witch, and he wants to be free of her, and because there are certain things that because he is enthralled to this witch, cannot do. He recruits Cinnamon to go with him across the country, the kingdoms, and help him destroy the artifacts of this witch so he can break her hold on not only him, but on his people. Number 7, reflection, which is changing in my reading taste, is a hard one because, like, here's the thing, is like my reading taste doesn't really, like, the most significant change that I have had in my reading taste was me realizing that I like horror novels, but that was ages ago that I realized that. That was back when I read Don't Fear the Reaper, which would have been not this January, but last. Because I like everything just about. I tend to just kind of read everything. There's a lot of fantasy and then other stuff thrown in. Number 8 is Detox, a book/habit that I am leaving behind. Y'all, I'm a Capricorn. We don't do that. Sorry, I'm calm. I'm chill. It's fine. I'll say that maybe it's not necessarily a habit that I want to leave behind. The thing that I would like to leave behind is the excessive number of unfinished books that I have this year, if you hadn't gotten that yet. But like I don't know if that's necessarily a habit. It's more of like I want to refocus and like be more intentional of what I am reading. Does that make sense? That's the thing that immediately comes to mind having gone through all of this. After that, we have question number 9, which is anticipated books and or events. I'm just going to put the timestamp for the first tag where I talked about that there. So if you'd like to refresh your memory, you can, but I don't have anything to add to that. The main thing that I would be able to say here has not been announced yet. So, and then the final prompt is prompt number 10, personal plans/goals. Can't tell you about all of these, but I do have a few highlights that I wanna like hit. Number 1 is I would like to do a 2025 Fabelin. So like I still, like that is something that is still in the back of my mind, something that I'm currently working on planning. The question is the story. Can I come up with a story that I feel is going to be compelling and interesting for me specifically? I want it to be compelling and interesting for everyone that is doing it, but it will not be if it is not first interesting to me. The other thing is I want to be, again, we've talked about this, I want to be doing some more themed reading projects. One of the projects that I want to work on is I want to continue reading books and continue the series where I'm reading books that I wasn't allowed to read as a child. I have the Babysitters Club that I want to do. I still want to do Goosebumps. I've been meaning to do that for ages. It just, the timing didn't work out last year. For when I wanted to do that, it just didn't seem like the right time to do that. And then I do want to go back and revisit the Animorphs series and continue throughout that, read some more of those, see what I think now that, you know, reading more of them, because I've heard really good things about the series and I am intrigued by what I read. I'd like to do more bookish experiments, like my one where I was trying to see what it would be like if I was a professional reader for a week. I have more like that. I like asking questions and trying things and seeing if they work. We'll see how well that works for the rest of the year, because come September, October, November, I don't have a lot of time for those kinds of projects. They can get a little bit trickier, but we'll see. And then there's like another potential new project that is involved in me reading The Way of Kings. Speaking of, if you'd like to read The Way of Kings along with me, you may. I'll have a link down below to the Discord. I'm trying something a little new. I'm not talking about it on socials all that much because I haven't officially launched this project. However, if you're interested and you would like to be part of the beta test and read The Way of Kings along with me, I'm currently on chapter 8 and I am going to be diving back into it next Monday from when this video is coming out. Unless this is Monday, in which case today. But hopefully it will be out before Monday. And then my final goal for this year, and I don't put a lot of stock in numbers, but I think it would be really cool if I could hit 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year. I was gonna try for 3,000 this year, but the first part of the year doesn't exist, so I'm not gonna put that kind of pressure on myself starting in July. I'm hoping that potentially with some of the stuff I have planned for the rest of the year and some of the stuff that I want to do in the rest of the year, that we will see me creep closer to that other goal. So I did hit 2,000 this year, and I am planning on doing something for that. I'm thinking I might do a letting my subscribers control my day. I just have to figure out what is the best way to do that. Is it better to do it in Discord? Is it better to do it through polls on I feel like if I did it through polls on YouTube, people would get really annoyed. I could do it through Instagram, I could do it through Discord, but then it's like it's not, I don't know, like I'm torn on that because then it's not my subscribers. But also, I'll put a post out with a poll after this goes up to kind of figure out how you guys want me to do that, what you guys think is the best way to have that happen. But I think it would be fun. I think it would be interesting, and I don't know that I've seen Like, I'm sure it's been done, I just haven't seen it be done before. Yeah, that's it. Videos over here that you can check out. I'll have picked them out based on videos that I have mentioned in this video. Let me know what your most disappointing book of the year was. I usually do what your favorite book of the year was. Let me know what your most disappointing book was this year. And if you're not feeling chatty, but you want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave a mug of tea emoji. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, hit subscribe. You guys know what to do. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! I was just looking back through my stuff to get the questions for this, and I've worn this shirt in the mid-year freakout tag before, and I don't know how I feel about that.